Hey guys, so there's a little bit of a delay. It's kind of weird for me, but we'll see how this goes. I'm gonna wait a little bit so that we can get everybody in who is interested in joining. All right. Okay. Hopefully that works better. Okay. Yeah, so we'll start at 5 here. Just quickly to go over everything. There's about 27 or 30 pieces that have to go together for everything to work. Um, The only difference between each lens is the mount section, which is this part here. This is the Canon RF mount. Um, I'll show you it mounted once everything gets completed here. But the backer here wanted Snow White for the aperture and focus ring, and then he wanted Harvest Gold and Harvest Gold for focus grip and lens lock. All right, once it hits 5, we'll get going here. So today's stream is just to get used to how to stream everything so that I can get better with it, and then also to show you guys how um, the lenses come together and what I have to do um, every time I put these together. It's a very it's a very tedious thing, um, and it's much more so than I thought it would be, which is kind of why it's been lagging for me. But we'll just go through how I do it, and then I should be streaming every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 5 to 8. And in those videos, it'll just be batch building. So I'll batch out 10, um, so that it kind of goes quicker. You guys can, tell me I'm an idiot on that stream or whatever you want to do, right? Just anything to keep me from losing my mind. All right, so let's get started. So first, what I like to do is I'll assemble two parts, and it'll typically just be the mount side, and then you'll have the lens body side. So let's go ahead and move everything that we don't need out of the way. I guess let me show you how the lens caps go together. It's pretty simple. but it does require a soldering iron to melt the points here, 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 and here so that it stays together. That is the lens. Let me pull up OBS. There we go. Yeah, so that's the lens there, or lens cap. And then this is the lens hood. Same thing here. They just kind of slot in, and the points will need to be soldered down with a soldering iron. Specifically for this, I don't like to mix soldering irons because it kind of reduces the efficacy of them. So there we go. Pop that on, and we'll set these aside until we're ready for them. So we're going to go ahead and assemble the main body first, then we'll focus on the lens mount. So let's get that in focus. I'm working with a Sigma 18 to 35 on an Olympus, so there's no continuous autofocus. I use it just because it's got great image quality, and the focal range is enough for me to do this tabletop work here. So the first thing that I start out with when assembling, and I know I keep saying that, but I promise you I will get to the point. So we start with the aperture assembly, and we just gotta make sure that's clean. And we're gonna brush it off real quick. And then do a light coat of this. This is a synthetic grease, and I've read that synthetics do better with plastic versus natural oils. I don't know how true that is, but what I do know is that this grease does not travel. So over time, it shouldn't work its way away from where it was greased. And I know, in regular camera stuff, we don't want grease or oil on the aperture blades, but I will, on this, it's kind of different. It does need it. And then we have this key here so that the back of this aperture blade has enough pressure to adjust or to slide up and down without causing anything to drag. So there is a little bit of a pimple there on the aperture blade. And we want to take care of all this stuff before the other part of the assembly. So this is the aperture back. I'm going to pop that on so it snaps on. Now we have our aperture assembly good to go. And we can test if it works on the... We can test if it works by first sanding down these points here because I had to drill through and tap these holes. Again, blowing everything off. So I'm going to bring this over, and I'm going to make sure that my aperture clutch is clean, and it is, so we're going to pop that in here. And then this is just to test it. We're not going to use this aperture ring. Oop. Goes in there. And what we do from here is just match up the pegs together. And then we're going to bring it down and massage it until the aperture blades engage, and they should. Okay, let's do that. But they should fall into place, and you can see that the aperture blades, or the apertures, are synchronized now. There's a little bit of that. So this one, there's a little bit of drag, which is causing, if you can see here, it's causing the, let's bring that up. All right, so you can see this one's slightly smaller and it gets bigger. So we're gonna look to see what's causing the drag. If there's nothing that we can see that's causing the drag, um, what I will end up doing is finding suitable replacement blades so that um, we don't have any drag. So this first one I'm going to test, and that's way too much play. So let me pop that out and grab another one. So this is going to get discarded. Boop, boop, boop. All right, let's see. This one, too big. I've got multiple prints of the aperture blades because there's minor inconsistencies, so finding the right fit is making sure that I have enough variation to pull from. And that we have no side to side, no lateral wiggle, I guess. So that's very good. It's kind of crunchy with the motion, so we're going to add a little bit of grease or lubrication so that it slides properly. I'm going to clean the interior. I'm only knocking out what I'm knocking out is zits or pimples on the aperture blades. So that's way too much wobble, which is why we were seeing the inconsistency in the aperture openings, or I guess in the iris. That's better. That's much better. That's a good smooth action. Again, we're gonna clear out the interior, and we're gonna hit it with a little bit of lighter. I prefer the lighter over a heat gun because lighters are a direct, I guess, a directable heat versus a heat gun, which is kind of like, depending on the size of heat gun that you have, it is just like a broad spectrum heat, and it could heat and um, it can warp sections that I'm not looking to warp because of the heat. With the lighter, it's just a little bit more direct, and it's less worry about it actually um, warping the entire piece versus just where I'm trying to get. Let's install that key again. I'm going to drop that in there, grab the back, close it. That's much better. All right, so you can see that the irises are much better. They should be as close as I can get with the tolerances of 3D printing to where they should be relatively equal. So let's pop that out, pop that off. I'm going to set that aside. That is the aperture ring I choose for testing everything. And we're going to add a light bit of lubrication on this inside rack so that the clutch mechanisms can travel well. And I'm going to avoid this area because that's where the lenses will be sitting. So if I just pop that in, do a little wiggle, and then we're going to install the actual, let me put some grease on this side, then we'll install the actual aperture ring for this particular lens. I'm going to grease that lightly. And we're going to try to get the lip here, or the interior of this aperture ring. We're going to pop on the lens face. Where's that? That's fine. We're going to secure the filter threads with 4 screws. And what I've learned doing this is that, one, if you don't pre-thread the holes, you can shear the screw head off because of the heat generated from the screw tapping the threads. And it may seem insignificant, but at the size of the thread, or at the size of the screws here, it's quite significant because it will, like I said, shear the bolt head off. And then 2 is that you can't be too aggressive, or you'll strip the threads. What you want to do is screw it down firmly, kind of back it off, so that you get a good, well, you get this, right? So, how do I, oh man. Okay, so the next step here is to return it to its default state, which should be here. And this is the open state. What we're going to do now is we're going to install the lenses. And what I do for this to make sure that nothing bad happens is I'll take this bottle of alcohol, spray my hands down to reduce, or to get rid of any of the oils or grease that has built up. Because, well, I mean, if you know, not, I mean, your hands get very greasy and they get very oily, and it's not good for the lens. So what I have are a pair of, these are microfiber gloves, if you can't tell with a shitty Game Boy camera, face camera, right? So I'll pop them on like that. And then we'll get the lenses in. So this makes sure that I don't scratch the lenses when I'm putting them in. It makes sure that I don't leave fingerprints on the lenses. So we'll bring them over here. And I'll slide that over like that. I'll give them a good, like a little clean there. And then the nice thing about them is they're kind of, they've got a little static electricity, so I can hold the lenses without actually having to pinch them. And I can set them in gently enough so that I don't have to touch anything. That didn't work out too well, did it? All right, let's do that again. And then I'm going to check this to make sure nothing happened to it. All right, that's good. All right, that out of the way. I'm going to take the gloves off. And then we're going to do a light dust here. Okay, let me check. All right, that is good. And then what I'm going to do next is these are not from Kodak Funsavers. You cannot imagine how impossible it is to find where Kodak gets them. And I'm assuming it's just that um, Kodak keeps it under wraps because it is for their Funsavers. So it's like a proprietary lens that they use. Um, so I've moved on to uh, it's an off-the-shelf lens that's about 40 to 44 to 45 um, millimeters focal length, um, and they work pretty well. Um, I've in my using these lenses, they tend to work better with flash or a light source that's behind the lens in the camera assembly. Um, but yeah, no longer the Kodak lenses. All right. And when I install these screws, it's always, the star pattern that you use when you're taking off or putting on uh, wheel lug nuts. You always run in a star pattern, and it probably doesn't matter here, but for me, that's kind of what I like to do to make sure that everything fits where it should. Okay, and then we're gonna, oh, that's wonderful. That is wonderful. And again, just blowing it off and checking. They look pretty good under the magnifier. So we're just going to shoot a jet of air in the back here to blow out any dust or debris that may have gone stuck in there. And do the same there. And then we're going to lightly grease these sides, because if you want to understand how it focuses, it's essentially just floating. And what it does is when it's here, this part is connected to the bottom, and it just kind of brings the entire assembly forward or backwards, uh, so that we can focus it on the camera sensor there. And it looks like I might have a little issue there, so add a little firm. Turn last one there to secure it down and reduce the height of that screw head. Once we do that, it should sit flush. Okay, there's something that's causing it not to sit flush, which is a little worrisome. So, that's what it is. So you can see in here that there's some it's a buildup of plastic, so we're going to push that out, and it should sit flush now. pretty flush. Yeah. That's no good. It's no bueno. That's going in the garbage. Let's pull out another one. There you go. That's perfect on first set. All right. So that's good. All right. So that's much better. And then the last thing that we're going to do here, this right here is the focusing ring. And it's, if you've ever taken apart like a modern lens, this is typically what they use for their focusing or their zooming, right? So on a telephoto lens, you'll see something similar to this. It's got like a rack and a pinion. I don't know what they call it, but it's typically what you'll see on them. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a generous amount of lubrication on this because this is one of the main moving points on the lens. Gonna get everywhere because I want to make sure that motion is smooth. And if you're wondering, the face cam is a Game Boy camera, and I can post some photos of the setup, but um, I don't know. I just like old shit, and being able to use old shit in a modern context is, I don't know, always nice, you know. And there's a generally a generous heap of lube applied inside the track so that um, the screw head, I'll show you in a sec, the screw head itself can be greased so that, again, the action is as smooth as possible on this. Let me do that too. Put a, put a light coat of grease on this. Not that it matters too much, but slide that on, lining the screw holes. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to test the focus action. Once we get these screws in, we'll see how hard or how tough it is to turn it. And I did some testing before this, and it should be pretty smooth. There shouldn't be too much friction in the channels where the screw heads run. So there is the focus action, and that's I. To me, um, this is a good feel. This is a good resistance on the focus. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to close the aperture, set this aside, and cover the back because I don't want any dust or debris to get into the lenses there. So let's go ahead and take this apart here. And this particular setup here is because I could have printed it as one part, but when I print it as one part, there's too much. The supports kind of throw everything off, so I have to break it up into two parts here to make sure that everything prints out as close as possible to what I needed to print out as. So let's pop that there. We're not going to use this. It's only it's just a stand. We need this. Then we're going to do a light grease inside of the focus ring because it will be rotating a little bit. Now that should sit flush. Then this is a spacer ring because on the Sony E-mount we don't need this part. It's only on the Canon RF and Nikon Z version. That should go in there. You gotta give me a sec here. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna throw this guy on. This guy. And then on the lip of this part here, we're going to put a little bit of grease so that lubrication so that it rotates well. So in it, the way that I think about it is, well, I think the first design is solid. Um, I don't think I don't think it warranted me making a Kickstarter and selling it because I mean I think anybody can do it, right? And I'm pretty sure there are other people who have done it, right? This second gen design, it it has a lot of function that the first one did not, and that um, I think makes it a much more unique proposition over the fixed focus, fixed fixed aperture wiggle lens. And I mean, you can still get it, right? Like I sell the STLs. Well, I don't sell them. You can download them and you can, throw a few dollars my way. But I don't. To me, I don't really. I don't want to sound like I don't care, but I don't care about it, right? Like I don't. It's a good design, and I think the more people who have it, the more interesting things we can get in terms of what people show online. Um, but again, I just didn't think it warranted. Uh, it didn't have enough novelty to warrant doing a Kickstarter like this. This one, just a lot of different techniques to get to showcase what 3D printing can do, and I think that's for me that's really important because I think uh, 3D printing. I know a lot of people think this, but I also think this is that 3D printing is it, it just offers like it offers you the ability to be curious and to um, answer questions about niche things like this. And what I want to do is I want to make something. I want to put something out there that helps people want to question how things work and to figure out how they do work. Um, and with this second generation lens, there's a lot of things that honestly I didn't think 3D printing could do, right? Um, but I've consistently proved myself wrong multiple times um, when working on this project. I know it's not a real answer, but that's kind of where I stand. It's really stupid, Like I know a lot of things going on in my head are kind of stupid, but again, it's just I love 3D printing, and I think little projects like this, like there's that guy who does the clock mechanism, and if that doesn't get you questioning what you can do with 3D printing or how things work, uh, I don't know, man. It's it's wild that we have these little factories in our homes, and we can really print whatever we want if we can design something within the tolerances of what 3D printing can do. All right, that needs to go down just a little bit more. All right, we're gonna test the locking action. Fantastic, fantastic. All right, and then the last part is to join the two halves. Let's loosen that up. I might have to take this apart again, or possibly just loosen up. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take this apart again. But I'll show you guys how it assembles. So that pops into place, and then you can see these. This is where set screws are going to go. So once we lock it into place, what happens is we'll take these set screws and lock it into place. And now the two halves are joined, and we have a fully functional camera lens. Yeah, there we go. Lens opens up and closes. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take this lens face here, So the Gen 3, um, I'm reaching out to. Okay, so part of the other reason the Kickstarter, I did the Kickstarter is that I needed outside expertise, and with the next generation, what I want is glass elements versus plastic elements, and that is something I don't understand well enough, um, and it doesn't make enough sense for me to learn it because there is so much information that I need to learn, right? Like I don't know what I don't know, right? Because it's entirely foreign to me. So I've been reaching out. I reached out to Lomography um, just the other day. I sent them some samples and kind of like a letter introducing myself, like, "Hey, man, um, I did this and that." But again, what the Kickstarter was for is to get enough attention on it, to see if we could possibly move forward with getting a glass element lens out there, because I think that would be the pinnacle of the design. I think glass elements would give the best image, and it would also allow me to do a few other things that I want to try out um, with this. And the other thing that I want to try is a shift, not a shift lens, but a tilt lens that I have the inner workings of it in my head, but it's a shift lens that's, or I'm sorry, a tilt lens for wigglograms. And I think that would be very interesting, or at least interesting enough to me to chase that thread down. So, I mean, Gen 3, either a glass lens or um, a tilt lens, because, that tilt shifty effect is, I don't know, it's interesting to me enough to pursue. All right, so we're going to test it out on this Canon. You gotta excuse. I don't usually keep my sensors this dirty. It's just I've got to work through a lot of lenses. So there we go. It's seated. You lock it into place. There it goes. Great. The Kickstarter experience. It was great. It's good overall. Kickstarter in itself is good. It's just my execution was very bad, like very very bad. Um, uh, how can I say this without making myself look like an idiot? Uh, there were so many things that I didn't know I was going to face. But through adversity, we get better, or whatever. It's all a huge learning experience, and it was like a trial by fire thing, man. I kind of just threw myself in there, and it's like I know I can make it. It's just there's always this nagging voice in the back of my head, like, "Hey, man, you're a piece of shit. You can't do this. What are you trying to do?" And I try not to listen to it, but I mean, wherever I go, there I am, and that voice is always following me. Um, but you know, at the end of the day, there was enough support to bring it to life, to where I can't continue to be that guy who always self-deprecates or shits on himself because he thinks he's a goddamn piece of shit. Um, and the Kickstarter has really helped me get past that, um, to get past my own insecurities as a person. Because, well, shoot, I can't not do it, right? Like, 200 people came together and said, "Hey, let's get this going." And if I don't do it, then really I'm a piece of shit, right? But yeah, Kickstarter pretty good. My own execution pretty poor. Uh, all right, and with that is complete. So uh, one last thing before we kind of wrap this up, I want to show you guys something. that I have worked on so that it reduces your um, it reduces well what it does is it serves to help me sleep better because my intention with this is not to do any damage to your cameras, and I don't want to expose anybody to a risk that they're unwilling to take. Right. So this next part is this next part is what I'm calling a depth checker. Right. So this is just a print of um, the rear baffle in a singular print, so that you get an idea of where it's going to sit in relation to the camera sensor. So what I like to do before mounting, I know it's going to work because I've done it and it's worked well for me, right? But you don't know that, right? You don't know that yet. And I just want to be able to mitigate any issues that could arise in mounting it incorrectly, or maybe something is wrong with the print. But what you want to do is you want to turn it on, and then you want to fire the shutter, and you'll see that the shutter comes in somewhere um, right underneath this piece here. I have not talked this much in so long. So once you fire the shutter, you can locate where it is. You can drop this piece in. And then fire the shutter. And what that does is it verifies um, if the rear baffle will interfere with the shutter. Oh my God. Excuse me, 1 second. All right, so like I was saying, I'm sorry. I haven't spoken this much, so it's kind of messing with my throat here. But yeah, you just pop it on, fire the shutter to make sure that it doesn't interfere. But the most important part is identifying where the shutter is in relation to the mount, so that when you put this on first, you can kind of gauge where it's going to be. So yeah, that is pretty much it. Um, this piece is, I think it's pretty important um, to assuage my fears and your fears on whether or not there's any interference with the camera lens and the camera sensor. Um, Again, it's not my intention to do any damage to your camera lenses, so they are provided there so that you can sleep a little better, and so that I can sleep a little better. um, I appreciate you guys for stopping by. I'm sorry that I am uh, oh man, I'm sorry that I haven't spoken this much in so long. That's affecting the stream, but um, that's pretty much it. I'll be here Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from
5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Just doing the same thing. You can stop by and ask questions. But I will see you guys, and hopefully I get less nervous and anxious when doing this. Hopefully, um, we'll have better streams. And I promise you, I am working through this as much as it may not seem like I am. I am working through this. There's just so many things. Again, I appreciate you guys. See ya.